Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion of the world, has hit out at his division rivals, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Joshua, as we know, has a date booked for April 13th at Wembley. He needs an opponent. So he's materialised from the woodwork because he's been on holiday, he's been very low profile. He's come up with this tweet on screen here now. What took this fool so long? Like we ain't been interested. Question mark, exclamation point times 2. Anyway, well done Fury. They wanted to get you because they assumed you was finished. I'll give you a fair one when you're ready. Either one of you. And the tweet that Joshua has included in his tweet is from Sky Sports Boxing. Interesting times at Bronze Bomber. Very interested in Anthony Joshua fight, says the American's co-manager, Shelley Finkel. And we will come to that article in a moment. I'll get into that. But in terms of what's happening here with this tweet, well, it's good to see Joshua sort of actually come out, say something, because all too often it's left to Eddie Hearn to sort of do the sort of frontman routine on Joshua's behalf. And that can only get Anthony Joshua so far because a promoter's words don't have as much, oomph and gravitas as the actual fighter himself. And Joshua, he sort of goes missing for periods of time in terms of saying anything meaningful. And we've seen photo snaps and bits and pieces from his holiday, but, that's nothing really related to his career. That's sort of tech over stuff, just to keep his sort of face out there on social media, but it's not really meaningful stuff in terms of his career. But with this sort of tweet, he's really laying down the challenge to his rivals. And what we've seen in recent months, because Joshua's sort of, since his fight with Alexander Povetkin in September, he's sort of been off the map a little bit in terms of, saying anything about Wilder and Fury, anything of note. And what's been happening is Fury and Wilder have been making some inroads. They've really been attacking Joshua, saying he didn't want the fight with Wilder. They've really been laying into him. There's been a bit of an information vacuum, and they've been filling it with their own words. So for Joshua to come back here and, start sort of saying, well, hang on, I want to fight either one of you. Deontay Wilder's just tried to cherry pick you, Tyson Fury. When you're ready, come fight me. I'll fight either one of you. And that's quite interesting that Anthony Joshua is really taking a swipe at Deontay Wilder in that way. He is saying, like many fans had when that fight was announced, Tyson Fury wasn't ready. I think a lot of people, or some people at least, are still making that argument that a fully fit Tyson Fury could have beaten Deontay Wilder, that they don't think that he was at his best, but with more time he could improve. Whereas there's an argument, is Deontay Wilder just the best Deontay Wilder that he could have been? Sure, he says that he didn't follow his game plan to some degree, but I'm sure the guy in front of him, Tyson Fury, he was a big part of that. Wilder did go away from the game plan, but he also said that he effectively was overawed. He got anxious, that he couldn't, the occasion got to him in some sense. So there is an argument to say if they had a rematch, which is a high possibility, and that could happen next, that Tyson Fury could be better. I mean, that's just speculation on my part, but I think there is other people who would agree with that. Can Deontay Wilder be better? If he can follow a game plan, but some of that may come down to what Tyson Fury is doing on the night and in front of him. But in terms of Joshua, it's good for him to put this marker in the sand, because at this rate, the way sort of things are sort of bubbling along after that fight on December 1st between Wilder and Fury, the most logical option for those two guys would be to rematch each other. That fight would be much bigger the second time around. There was the drama in the fight, Fury looking good, boxing well, Deontay Wilder landing twice, knocking Fury down, and ultimately there was the draw, a controversial split decision draw. Obviously, since then, fans have been in a bit of a flutter. Some people believe Deontay Wilder should have won that fight. The champion, he knocked him down twice, did enough to keep the belt. Others believe Tyson Fury did win. I believe he won. But in terms of, that sets up the prospect of another fight. And there is the real risk that Anthony Joshua could be left on the outside looking in if they decide to actually go and rematch each other next. But Anthony Joshua is the money man in the division. Deontay Wilder will know this. He's had an offer in front of him recently. What it was, though, was a percentage deal, minimum guarantee, with a rematch clause. You can make the argument after that scare with Tyson Fury, who definitely came better than advertised. He impressed a lot of people, boxed very well. He's gotten a lot of credit for his performance. After that scare with Fury, you can certainly make the argument that Deontay Wilder, with his WBC belt, he should look to, 1, try to unify, and 2, try to get the really big payday, because Joshua is the money man. He can probably offer a bigger payday than the rematch with Tyson Fury. But I guess it really depends on what are his advisors doing. Who are they talking to? What are the sort of numbers that are being crunched in terms of a rematch? But also, what is the offer from Eddie Hearn? And we're not quite going to know that right yet, because the numbers, they haven't been announced. I'm sure if talks are beginning between Eddie Hearn and Shelley Finkel, or representatives of both sides, that there is going to be an indication of, well, X number of pay-per-views were done. They will already have that information. It's just not public yet. In terms of the finances and the revenue streams, some of that will keep trickling in for a week or two. Some of the international stuff, it's not just the UK pay-per-view, there's the international pay-per-view, merchandise, there's all sorts of stuff that has to be tallied up before you can get your profits, losses, all that sort of stuff. But it's going to be very interesting. What will an offer look like? And this is where we're coming to the article. Deontay Wilder, very interested in Anthony Joshua fight, says Americans co-manager Shelley Finkel. Deontay Wilder, very interested. There's actually not a lot here in terms of story or quotes. Okay, we're very interested in the fight. If he wants to be professional and keep it in a private discussion, I'm open to it. If everything is in the paper, I have no desire to discuss anything, and let him go fight who he wants. And that is the sum total of what Shelley Finkel is saying. And Eddie Hearn has told Sky Sports, let's see what happens. So, yeah, not a huge amount of updates, but in terms of Shelley Finkel, I mean, understandable that at this point that they need to actually get around the table. If they really are going to make this fight, hashing it out in the public is just not going to work. We actually saw between April and July of 2018, the first time around, going public and every detail sort of blow by blow, day by day, it just didn't work. You know, it was messy, it was bitter, it got progressively worse. They were obviously, you know, sort of trying to one-up each other. Someone would say something in the media, Hearn would say, you know, Shirley Winkle this, that, say something, and then Shelley Finkel would be back in the media the next day himself. So it's a little bit rich for Shelley Finkel to say he needs to keep it private, because that was something that Finkel himself could not do earlier in 2018. But let's hope they can be grown up about it if they are going to negotiate this deal, because the end of the month is not far away. Eddie Hearn is saying he wants to announce the Joshua fight by the end of December. So, you know, we've only got a couple of weeks and change, and part of that comes to Christmas. And some of these things, as we've seen before, they don't move quickly. And if we're waiting a few more days for bits and pieces to roll in to establish Deontay Wilder's commercial value, you know, you can see the window is very small. What we do know is there is some sort of offer that is already sort of thrown out there as a, you know, here is a minimum guarantee percentage deal with a rematch. That is the position at the moment, which has been in place, for a month or so now. Previously to that, it was a $15 million flat fee, which was ultimately declined back in July. Prior to that, opened up with a $12.5 million offer. Deontay Wilder himself, in that first negotiation, his team had put up a $50 million offer and given Joshua 24 hours to respond. Ultimately, no deals were signed. The fight didn't get made. It was very disappointing. So let's hope that whole sort of disappointing end to things isn't repeated here. So in a way, I'm actually heartened that Finkel is saying, let's get around the table, let's do this quietly, because that's when the deals get done. The deals generally don't get done through the media, through bitterness. And, you know, I think a lot of us at the time were saying, well, there is a reason that they're looking to do this so publicly, because it very publicly builds the fight. The fight between Wilder and Joshua has been relatively sizable in terms of appeal for the past year or so, but it's been building and building and building. And if they can make this fight, and they build it for another, 4.5 months until April 13, you can see that this is going to be a very big fight. It's maybe not as big as it could have been if Deontay Wilder had have got the win against Tyson Fury, if he had have won emphatically in that fight. But regardless, it's still a big fight. And obviously with Anthony Joshua's tweet, he's sort of saying, Fury, I'm willing to fight you as well. And I guess, Joshua laying down the gauntlet there, basically saying, if you're ready, fight me. Either one of you. But he is saying that Deontay Wilder tried to cherry pick Tyson Fury, and ultimately it almost went wrong for him. And some fans certainly back up that view and that perspective that Wilder tried to get Fury when he wasn't ready. And a Tyson Fury in 6 months' time is probably going to be better than this version of Fury. Well, that is what many people speculate. But I'll leave it there. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.